In my last video, I showed you how you can use Cantabile to work with external sounds. I showed you how you can input the sound of your keyboard into the program and run it through a single VST effect. In this video, I thought I'd show you how to work with virtual instruments using multiple racks and multiple plugins. Right now I have set up in my first rack here an instance of my piano. I'm using the Galaxy 2 Vienna Grand for this example. I'm going to add a few more effects to the rack. I'm going to come to the new plugin menu and the effects menu and then select a few different plugins. I've got some variety of sound plugins that I like to work with a lot. So I'll select an EQ. I'll come back and select a compressor. And then finally, I'll get my reverb in here. Now if I want, I can stop here. I can tweak the plugins as I see fit. And I know I'm getting good sound going through all of them. But what I'm going to do is kind of make it a little bit easier for myself, especially when I come back at a later date or if I want to start working with different combinations of plugins. I'm going to go ahead and create a new rack and move my effects out of the rack where my instrument is. So all I need to do is click on New Rack, and then I'll just drag and drop my plugins from the first rack down into the second one here. This way, if I want to go ahead and create a third rack or a fourth or whatever and then add different plugins, I can do that and kind of tweak the sounds and then jump between the different racks to find just the sound I want. I'll show you more how to do that in another video. But for now, I want to just play again my piano. And I see that the sound is no longer going through my plugins. What happens here is when we create a new rack, the default of that rack automatically goes to the output. So each of these racks go right to the output. So if I play my instrument up here, it's not going to go through this rack yet. It goes over to the output of the program. So under this Send To column here, I can select my second rack, Rack 2, and now when I play the piano again, I've got the sound going back through all of my plugins here. Now once I'm done tweaking and I've done all I'm going to do with this particular session, of course I can save it. What I'm going to do here is just open up another session that I have saved. It has the same combination of plugins. In this case, I've already got all the plugins tweaked to the way I want them. And in just a second, you'll see them all pop back up here. Sounds a little bit different. I use this particular combination of plugins on a song that's on my blog. It's called Frederick's Transformation. You can go to the blog there and listen to the sound that I recorded with this particular session. The one difference you might see here is that the rack has a different name. If you right-click on that rack, you can select Rename, or you can just use the F2 function key and rename the rack. And that becomes helpful as you start adding more and more racks and you want to send it to various racks, and you've got some that are maybe down below the screen where you can see. When you select the Send To button here, you can actually see the name of that rack, and it makes it a little bit easier. You can name it whatever is appropriate. In this case, of course, really I only have one other rack to send it to, so that's pretty obvious. But really, that's the basics behind adding a virtual instrument and then creating a couple different racks and multiple plugins within those racks. One thing I'll mention here, if we have more than one instrument in my instrument rack here, and I want to layer some sounds or something, I'll show you one little thing here. This button over here, the MIDI pass-through button. You would want to select that button if you've got more than one instrument and you want to have both of those instruments playing at the same time. This just allows all the MIDI data to go through this first plugin here and into the next one that's here. If you forget to check that MIDI pass-through, you can have as many instruments as you can fit in your rack here, and you're really only going to hear this first one being played because the MIDI is not going to go beyond this first instrument. So that's worth keeping in mind if you start doing that and you're wondering why you can only hear this first instrument. As far as the program goes, the other features of the program are pretty self-explanatory. The dry and the wet and the pan and all these kind of things. You can pretty much figure out what those are going to do for your sound. If you want to hear this song, like I said, using this combination of plugins, it's called Frederick's Transformation. It's on my blog at blackgrand.com. You can go there and offer up some comments or suggestions about the blog or any of the things that I have posted there. If you want to find out more information about this program, of course, you go to cantabilesoftware.com, and you can find out all you need to know there. But for now, I'll wrap it up with this video. It'll get you started working with the virtual instruments. Hopefully, you'll find it helpful.